is up, ClickPod family? This is your boy, Mean Dean, representing that Click Podcast, formerly known as TOP, representing my man JG, and our dearly departed, but hopefully back soon, Tom E. Guns. Welcome back to Mean Dean's A through Z pay-per-view review. Today, the B stands for WCW Bash at the Beach 1994. Very interesting pay-per-view. Can't wait to dig into it. And really, the hype surrounding the main event was really what sold me on this pay-per-view. Unfortunately, though, the main event kind of fell short for me. So, before I get into it, one thing I want to mention is it is getting ever closer to WrestleMania 34's weekend, NXT TakeOver, WWE WrestleMania 34, and of course, more importantly than all of that, the Click Podcast, TOP, WrestleMania pre-show on at noon Mountain Standard Time. We're going to go for hours, people. We're going to talk about everything, and we need you to be there to throw out some questions. Talk to us while we're live. We'll totally stop to shout you out. We'll ask the questions. We'll answer them for you to the best of our ability. We are amateurs, as they say. Or sorry, we're in the indies still. We're in the indie phase, technically. But we're about to be called up to the main roster. Don't you worry. We're getting more subscriptions on YouTube. We're getting more follows, more likes on Twitter and Facebook. We just need you guys to maybe stop by Patreon and go ahead and give us $1 donation for each recording posted. That would be a huge help. And of course, we want to give you all the up-to-date live content that we possibly can. Tough to do that when we all have jobs, all have families. Gets crazy, but TOP, the Click Podcast, the Click Pod Inc. is our family, and we will continue to do that till we die. I just went straight heel there. I've been watching way too much Jim Cornette lately. It's been crazy. Alright, so WCW Bash at the Beach 1994 starts off with Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, and Mean Gene Okerlund. For those of you who don't know, I fashioned my podcast named after Mean Gene Okerlund, Mean Dean, right? Get it? Get it? Match number 1, Johnny B. Bad, who's Mark Marrow, versus William Regal for the television title. Couple of the notes here right off the bat. I fucking love the television title. I don't know why they took it away. Maybe it's just because it doesn't have a lot of luster, or I'm not entirely sure. Love the TV title. Think it's perfect to have on every week, to defend every week. That was awesome. And there was a stretch where Devon had it in TNA that he was really, defending every week. There were decent matches. There was something on the line. I really like the TV title. So again, Johnny B. Bad, his fucking entrance music is insane. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's like if you would put lyrics to Big Daddy Cool Diesel's entrance music, but just talk about how bad Johnny B. Bad is. It's fucking Mark Marrow, okay? He's not bad. I will say, though, William Regal, fucking awesome. Every time I watch an old program with William Regal on it, with the exception of some things, and it might be watered down by WWE, but WCW, man, he played the heel angle so good. William Regal, Ric Flair, a lot of these old guys are earning my respect big time because of how good they were, how good their characters were. Fuck, I mean, you wouldn't even really think about it unless you watched it. But when I watched in the last podcast, WCW's Bunkhouse Stampede, Larry Zbyszko was the shit. Larry Zbyszko is fucking awesome. But a lot of people in my age only know him as a color commentator. But he was a great wrestler. You can make the argument that Regal paved the way for, let's just say, UK guys or European guys, Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne. I would say that's accurate. And I would say he was also probably more instrumental in bringing the UK title to WWE over Triple H because of his connections over there and because of how good he is. But of course, Regal was carrying the match technically. That's just how it is. Mark Marrow, Johnny B. Bad, whoever you want to call him, underrated, maybe, just from like an athletic standpoint, but totally overrated from a character standpoint. He had his best run with Sable when she was beating his ass. That's pretty much it for Johnny B. Bad right there. Regal gets the dub, still television champion, and he does walk off. He had a manager, it was like Sir Regal or something. It was like Sir English or something really close to his name. Then Mean Gene Okerlund gets in the ring, and Antonio Inoki gets in the ring. Now, For those of you who don't know who Antonio Inoki is, he is one of the premier legend wrestlers ever in Japan. Antonio Inoki is amazing. If I'm not mistaken, and you can fact check me, Antonio Inoki is also in the WWE Hall of Fame. But essentially, WCW is there to give him a plaque for being a legend. And during that, Regal comes back out and starts cutting another heel promo, basically saying that Antonio Inoki is not a legend, he's a joke, and he's put out guys way worse than him. Fucking love Regal. One thing to note before I move on to the second match, when Johnny B. Bad had his entrance, there was basically like glitter flakes, giant glitter flakes, that fell from the ceiling. Not only did WCW personnel not clean it up, almost every match up to the last match, or even during the last match, they had wrestlers with all this fucking glitter on their backs. So, if Mark Marrow / Johnny B. Bad left any impression, is that he's fancy, and he does fancy things, and he has fancy glitter that he basically sticks to everybody's back. And I bet you one fucking person through the whole night back there probably was like, what the fuck? I was wrestling with all this glitter on my back? Interesting point. Match number 2, this is also a weird one. We all know Johnny B. Bad as Mark Marrow. This one is Vader. Super underrated. Love Vader. He's from my hometown, Denver, Colorado. Against the Guardian Angel. Does anybody remember the Guardian Angel? Fuck no, you don't know the Guardian Angel. You know why? Because the Guardian Angel was Big Boss Man. Basically like he converted to the Black Panthers, but decided to pick it with white people. That's the Guardian Angel. That's what he looked like. But it was the Big Boss Man. That's who it was. So it was weird that they were putting... WCW, when it comes to characters, they're fucking awful. That's why they went off the backs of Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Sting. These were all guys that had... Sting, let's say, arguably, had the best character in WCW. But the rest of them had real names. Because they couldn't make anybody. Not even Glacier could save that. Ayo, they also showed Hank Aaron in the crowd. I thought that was pretty interesting. It was Hank Aaron. Was it Antonio as well? Just sitting next to him, I'm not sure. But Hank Aaron was in the crowd. I thought that was pretty sweet. What was really funny about this match was basically that... What was really funny about this match was that the Guardian Angel / Big Boss Man basically had a huge fucking problem with Harley Race. I don't know why. Because Harley Race was Vader's manager. And if you ever go back to any of the Mick Foley documentaries or any of his videos of WWE, show the rivalry he had with Vader, and Harley was always there. This is around that time. The Guardian Angel had a serious problem with Harley Race because every time Harley Race got within 15 feet of him, he just went over there and beat Harley's ass. Harley Race, one of the baddest motherfuckers in wrestling, got his ass whooped by the Guardian Angel. Let that set in. I wish I had Jeopardy music. I don't know why. It just feels like that'd be right now. Vader does a sunset flip from the top rope, and it's not one that both guys are on the rope. He just flips over the guy and tries to roll him up. It was super, super impressive. And Vader, of course, has a moonsault, and some of my comments on this and my notes are just, wow, fucking badass. Vader is one of the most underrated big men ever in the history of wrestling. He was so good at what he did that it was so impressive, and I'm surprised he didn't have more championship runs. He was the most believable badass prior to Samoa Joe being the most believable badass. Guardian Angel got disqualified even though he didn't use a nightstick. He was just holding the nightstick, ready to hit Vader. Ref saw it, called it. Refs are super picky in this pay-per-view. Winner, Vader. Big V, it's Vader time! Alright. Match number 3, Bunkhouse Buck and Terry Funk versus Arn Anderson and Dustin Rhodes. This match was mainly to put over Dustin Rhodes as a contender on some sort of main event status. We all know Dusty Rhodes, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Dustin Rhodes, you may know him as well as Gold Dust. Way better character than his actual name and his persona that he put in there. So I guess I'm being somewhat hypocritical, if you could say that, based on what I said earlier about characters and names. This was pretty much just a really standard match. In fact, I said so much so, really standard match, playing up the whole Roman angle with Dustin, basically trying to make him look super, super strong. They didn't say shit about Bunkhouse, and say shit about Terry Funk or Arn Anderson, other than Arn Anderson's trying to help this kid. And every time Dustin got one punch off, they're like, oh my god, here we go! Love fucking Shivani, but goddamn. This is Dustin Rhodes, alright? It's not Goldust. Give me a fucking break. At the end, though, Arn Anderson hit that heel work, turned on Dustin Rhodes, dropped him with a nasty DDT. Winner, Buckhouse Buck, Terry Funk, and the celebration began. Match number 4, and very, very clearly, if you go back and watch this match of the night, hands down, Ricky Steamboat versus Stunning Steve Austin for the United States title. Does anybody know who Stunning Steve Austin is? Let me give you a hint if you don't. The best wrestler ever, and I know JG will disagree, which is cool. I love you. The best wrestler ever, period. Stunning Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was still good in WCW, but he was having technical matches like crazy. Like, he could hold his own against Flair, against Steamboat, against all these guys, and that's exactly what happened in this match. Steamboat basically showed up Taker in this match by grabbing the arm, walking across the top rope, walked across the entire top rope of one side, and came down on him. But at the beginning, man, what a great story to be told. I didn't have to watch one fucking lead up to this match. Do you know why? Because all they needed to do was get in the ring, lay it all out, prove to me that there was a story before, which they did quickly, and that was it. I don't need to know anything else ahead of this. That's what makes a great match. Ricky Steamboat, Stunning Steve, great fucking story. What I didn't notice at the beginning of it was that Stunning Steve Austin's trunks, which were black, incidentally, had in white on the back Dragon Slayer, which totally played to his heel persona. Super fucking awesome. You gotta love Stunning Steve almost as much as you love Stone Cold Steve Austin. Not quite as much. And for some reason, Tony Schiavone said that if Steamboat knocks Stone Cold out, or if Stone Cold knocks Steamboat out of the ring and they hit the floor, they're disqualified. That didn't make sense to me because they had been out on the outside doing their thing and showing us what the story is and really putting it out on the line. So strange that in the middle of the match they're saying, you can't do that, you'll be disqualified. It was really, really strange. In natural heel fashion, Stunning Steve gets hold of the tights but misses, gets his feet on the rope, makes the pin, still United States champion, Stunning Steve Austin. This next match, match number 5, was actually pretty disappointing, and they also didn't have a lot of wrestlers in there that I actually enjoyed watching, except for one. It was Pretty Wonderful, the tag team called Pretty Wonderful, but it was Paul Orndorff and Paul Roma, who became, if I'm not mistaken, Hercules later on in WWE. What was the name of that tag team when he went there? It was Power and Glory. That's what it was. It was Power and Glory, and I believe he was Glory in the early 90s of WWE. But he was tagging with Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful, versus Kevin Sullivan and Cactus Jack, who had the tag team titles at the time. Strange combination, sure. And I do not like Kevin Sullivan. He has an okay mind for the business. There's just too much involved, and he had way too much power, and when he's right, then it goes to the moon. His ego. He's not a good wrestler either. So, there's that. Literally, though, Paul Orndorff and Paul Roma flexed for 3 fucking minutes. That's all they did, was flex. And I'm like, yo, are you going to get this match started or what? I'm going to fast forward this shit. I don't need to watch this shit. But it was a very long, boring match. It really was, and that sucked. Cactus didn't really get to play the way he played it in WCW. Didn't get a lot of the shots in that he normally would. If you ever go back and want to watch Cactus Jack in WCW, he had some great bouts with Vader. He had some great bouts with Stunning Steve, with Sting. Honestly, Cactus was on another level. Arn Anderson, too. I mean, just great, great competitor in WCW. But really, this match, if anything, just confirmed my dislike for Kevin Sullivan. Sorry, Kev. Don't mean to hurt you, Kev. What a douche. Honestly, I don't know him personally. I'm not necessarily judging him based on his personal character. I guess I'm just judging him based on his business acumen. Doesn't look good. And also part of my note on here was that there was still glitter from Mark Marrow, Johnny B. Bad, from his entrance. All over everybody. Paul Orndorff is basically a fucking dark orange. And it was shining pretty bad off him. Winner, pretty wonderful. New tag team champs. Who gives a shit? All right. Now, last match. One of the things they touted was that Michael Buffer was going to come out and announce everybody. That's what WCW did. Shaquille O'Neal, they're in the Orlando Arena, was going to hand the title to the winner. Shaq got a bigger pop than most everybody else, but there are a lot of celebrities in the audience. It was really cool. It felt real. It felt like a big fight feel when it came to Hogan and Flair, because realistically, this is something that should have happened in 92 or 93. It did not. 94, here it comes in a different promotion. Could have been bigger than it was. And part of my note was that you can make the argument that if this match was, let's say, at WrestleMania 8, as it was intended to be, then they switched the match to Hogan and Sid Justice for a co-main event where the Warrior came back, and Macho Man and Flair for the world title at WrestleMania 8. Should have been Hogan versus Flair. Would have been much bigger. Timing was right. But both parties, from what I understand, just couldn't work out a deal. Fair. Hulk, next to Paul Orndorff, is so fucking tan, he's basically black. If you shaved his blonde hair off everywhere, his face and his head, he would be a black man. Shout out to JG. Sorry. Hogan's basically black in this. It was just weird. But there's a typical back and forth, playing to the crowd, a lot of holds. They knew it was going to be a long match. They wanted to get down on the mat early, pace themselves. I totally get it. But really, Flair got the best of Hogan in some exchanges, but Hogan just dictated the match. It was almost too clear to me who was going to win the match. Hogan even used the figure 4. Nobody really uses the figure 4 against Rick. I can say maybe televised a handful of times. That's it. Hogan uses the figure 4 on Rick. Hogan, new world champ, WCW, settles the score for who is the biggest and best wrestler ever. I fucking disagree. It is not Hulk Hogan. While I think Hulk Hogan's character and entertainment factor and build and the way he built matches verbally and the way that he hung in there during those matches makes him a great wrestler. It makes him one of the greatest of all time. But Ric Flair is the greatest of all time. I know I said that Stone Cold is, but I'm talking about generational. If you're talking about the golden era of wrestling, that would be Ric Flair. The silver age of wrestling would be Stone Cold Steve Austin. The bronze age of wrestling would be John Cena. And coming soon to you, Roman Reigns. Have fun with that Brock Lesnar match. Pew, pew, pew. That was low. Even for me, that was pretty low. I'm sorry. JG won't like that, though. He fucking hates Roman Reigns. I'm okay with Roman Reigns, but he fucking hates him. Like, dislike. Like, JG's going to show him them hands. He's going to get them hands, for real. That is it for me, Mean Dean, with the Click Podcast, A through Z pay-per-view review. I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, YouTube. Subscribe to everything. And go to the WrestleMania pre-show live on YouTube, April 8th, noon, Mountain Standard Time. I'm out, bitches.